Hello, welcome everyone to another episode of the Sage Circle Alliance Charter Membership Month. We are here to talk about Sage Circle Alliance, let you know what it's all about, and hopefully you'll be inspired to join us on this important critical mission to promote nutrition and good and fitness and all the things that go along with that, and to increase your visibility in the world as well. So our guest today is Kathleen Gage. She's here regularly. Many of you probably already know her and recognize her. Hi, Kathleen.
Hey, how are you, Sid? Good to see you.
Likewise. So we're really
Thanks.
here together. Yeah, we're just going to talk about Sage Circle Alliance today and our own stories. I'm anxious to hear more about Kathleen because even though I've known her for a while, I don't really know her background story that well. I first saw her at the NHA conference in 2023 when she and her business partner V-Lynn were there doing a lot of the marketing behind the scenes things there. And so that's when I first saw them in person. But since then, I've really gotten to know them better through the Sage Circle Alliance, which is another wonderful benefit of the SCA, right? Is that you get to meet a lot of people who are on a like-minded mission.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, well, it's so great to be here. And to those who are watching us live, welcome to a Sunday live stream. And for those who will watch the replay, welcome to the replay of the Sunday live stream. It's great to be here.
Yep. Yeah. So, what is your story? When did you go plant-based, Kathleen? And how did that? Why? Why? What were your motivators for that?
That is such a great question, and I always love answering it because right now there's some trending videos on TikTok that are really concerning, and I'll talk about that in a minute. But I went plant-based on September 16th. I believe it was either 6th or 16th. I'd have to look, 2018. And the reason I did is I had lost both my parents. And like many people, when you lose parents that you love very much, you might turn to food for comfort. And I did turn to food for comfort. I had gained a lot of weight. I was exercising a lot because I've been into exercise for a good 40 years where I, very consciously involved in exercise. But I was feeling sluggish, dealing with a lot of inflammation, especially in my legs after a long run. Like I had done a couple of marathons and I had done half marathons. I did a lot of 5Ks, 10Ks, but I always dealt with a lot of pain. And so I began my research to figure out how can I minimize the inflammation. I didn't think I would get rid of it, but how could I minimize it? Everything I read indicated that if I gave up meat and dairy, that I could minimize or even reverse the inflammation. And I thought, okay, that's too good to be true, but let's give it a shot. And I was introduced to the works of Dr. Joel Furman, Dr. Will Tuttle, Rich Roll. I mean, I started reading all these books, watching documentaries, getting everything I could to give myself enough information to do it correctly. And so I decided I would give it 7 days, and I was probably close to 210 pounds at the time. I'd given up on diets because I was a yo-yo dieter most of my life. I'd go up and down, and there was like a 50 to 60 pound, even as much as a 90 pound weight difference. And that was not a healthy 90 up and 90 down. But anyway, so I decided to just give the plant-based eating a shot, no oil, salt, or sugar for 7 days to see if I felt better. Well, not only did the inflammation go away within 2 days, I was completely blown away by that. I had little bumps on my arms that they were like little pimples. And I started noticing those were going away. I started noticing I was sleeping better. My moods were more consistent. And after the first week, I had dropped 5 pounds. And I'm like, well, this is interesting because I wasn't trying to lose weight. I had given up on diets. So I thought, okay, I'll give it another 7 days. And in another 7 days, I lost another 5 pounds. And I'm like, okay, this is really bizarre. And I was feeling great. And after my running, I wasn't feeling the pain I had been experiencing. Well, then I decided, okay, I'm going to try this for an extended period of time, but I would not call myself vegan because I didn't want to be a crazy vegan. Well, 6 months into my plant-based journey, not only did I lose so much weight, the weight just literally melted off me. It was crazy. But I realized I was at the grocery store one day walking by the meat department, and I had watched a lot of documentaries by that point. And interestingly, I did a lot of animal rescue. I've been doing animal rescue for years, and we have a mini sanctuary in our on our ranch, and it's a self-funded. We have 3 horses, 3 chickens, 2 dogs, and a cat, and we fund all this ourselves. So here I am rescuing animals on the one hand and eating them on the other. And about 6 months in, I'm walking by the meat department and I literally stopped in my tracks because all of a sudden the reality of how disconnected and the cognitive dissonance I had been living in for so long kind of surfaced for me. And it was like, how could I have been so ignorant? And what I had to do, and I hear that a lot of people that do cross that invisible line into veganism, I had to go through a period of forgiving myself for not knowing, forgiving myself for believing the media that tells you that a diet full of animal-based products is good for you, and just forgiving myself for the pain and suffering that I caused to animals. And that was kind of a turning point for me, where from that point forward, I decided to start a podcast show. I actually started 2. One was called Vegan Visibility. The other was Plant-Based Eating for Health. And V. Lynn and I recently launched our podcast show, Veganpreneur Revolution. And now everything I do is committed to the vegan movement, the plant-based movement, and really educating people on healthy lifestyles, because I just celebrated a mile marker birthday. And I have to say, at 70 years old, I'm probably healthier now than I was in my 20s, 30s, and 40s.
That's incredible. So it started for health reasons, it sounds
Mhm.
like, right? The inflammation, the pain. And so you saw results so quickly. You said after 2 days, the pain resolved and that was the whole start of it, and you kept with it, and then the realization of the animal products, at the grocery store, really motivating. So you've got a lot of motivators for you.
And what really keeps me motivated is the more that I go into this whole movement of the plant-based movement, the SOS free, and the vegan movement, and I combine the two for my life. This is what works for me. I'm not saying that everybody needs to do this, but I went through a period where I quit calling myself a plant-based eater and I called myself vegan, and then I became a junk food vegan. And it's like, and I started putting some weight on. I started feeling sluggish. And I thought, well, I'm eating the non-animal and dairy foods, but I was eating the junk foods, the ultra processed. And
Yeah.
there's a really great book out called Ultra Processed People. And it
Mhm.
talks about the foods, how many toxins are and chemicals and salt and sugar and oil is in the food that we eat, so that we become addicted to it. And so for me now, it's really important that I identify as a whole food, plant-based vegan. I mean, I got a nice label, and people say, "Oh, you shouldn't label yourself." And it's like, for this vegan and this plant-based eater, I do label myself.
Mhm. I agree. There's a difference between a vegan and a whole food plant-based eater. I mean, Oreos and potato chips are vegan technically, right? And we don't promote that here.
Well, I had 2 boyfriends, Ben and Jerry, and they kept visiting. And it's like, "Go away, go away. I don't want to have a romance with you." But I literally would. I would, like, obsess on Ben and Jerry, and and they have a non-dairy, option and the cookie dough option, and I would obsess on it. It's like I live in a rural community, so we don't have a fully stocked grocery store close by. We have a grocery store, but it's not a fully stocked like a Safeway or an Albertsons or a Whole Food. And I
Mhm.
would obsess on driving out and I would plan it out. And I thought, this reminds me of when I used to eat junk food. I mean, literally eat terrible, terrible food. And I noticed that I was getting into these obsessive behaviors. So it's so interesting about the way our mind works and what triggers us, because the ultra processed vegan foods are really as unhealthy. They may be more ethical, but they're just as unhealthy as ultra processed regular foods.
Oh, I know. I have a similar journey. I went from an unhealthy vegetarian to an unhealthy vegan to finally whole food plant-based, no added oil, but that was a journey for sure.
When did you start?
About 35 years ago,
Oh my gosh, I'm a baby. I'm a baby.
unhealthy vegetarian. Some friends of ours who happen to be vegetarian invite us invited us over for dinner, and we thought, oh, this is going to be like so fun, to go a vegetarian's house. So we didn't know anything about it. And from there, that sparked it. And we were still eating Tombstone frozen pizzas and, Hostess cupcakes and drinking Diet Pepsi and all the junk. And then went to okay, then we started to realize, well, this might not be the best thing eating still all this cheese. So then we went
Right.
to unhealthy vegan, eating the Morningstar Farms chick patties and the fake hot dogs and all of that stuff. And so then finally, the more you learn, that's why I'm excited about Sage Circle Alliance, because that's what we're here to do is help educate people. That's a huge motivator for me, that plus my dire family history. I'm kind of right behind you. I'm about to be 69 soon. So my hat's off to you. I want to
Thank
hit
you.
the big 7-0 with a but education is key if you're going to
Absolutely.
stay motivated. It's what keeps me going. That plus the good health that we enjoy as a result of our lifestyle.
Well, on the education, I think it's really important for people to really understand where their information comes from because a lot of so-called research papers are actually funded by the very organizations, let's say the Dairy Council, where you read a report that drinking milk is good for you, eating cheese is good for you, because there are reports like that out there. And if you dig deep and I went through the Cornell University certification for plant-based nutrition, and that was the part I got the most value from was understanding how to read reports and research papers. That if you strip away the layers, you find out the very people that are funding this document are the people that are going to benefit financially from it. And recently there's been a lot about the carnivore diet, how healthy it is. It reduces inflammation, it reduces diabetes, and I mean on and on and on. And I'm just like, oh my gosh. So I started doing some research looking for research papers. And there are research papers that you could change the name from plant-based to carnivore. And all the information is exactly the same. And it's like, this is so interesting because people are misguided literally into their tombstone. I think it's so important for people to understand what is logical when you think about the way you're eating. And, I know that you work with people around their eating. How do you help people to understand what's truly healthy and what's a bunch of hype and propaganda?
Yeah, well, I, like you, Kathleen, encourage them to not believe everything they see and hear. We have to evaluate those things carefully. Who funded the studies, right? As you just pointed out, if it's funded by an agricultural group or the dairy lobby or the beef industry, those people hire their own researchers in order to skew the results in order, to their favor. So you have to be aware of the research and where you're getting it, what the report was actually about. Was it a small study with 2 people for a week, or was it a grandiose study like the China study, for example, Dr. Campbell's huge study,
Mhm.
on thousands and thousands of same genetically programmed people, so that's a very valuable study. But to encourage, when people come to me for coaching, it's usually because they have a health problem,
Mhm.
and so they might be sort of convinced that the way they're currently eating is not the best way, which is the standard American diet, by the time they come to see me. I'm not sure
Well,
I
you
answered your question.
Well, you did, and I want to dig deeper into for those people that are watching right now and who will be watching, who are kind of sitting on the fence. Maybe they're where I was about 6 years ago, where you're feeling sluggish. You're actually buying into as you age, you should feel more and more tired. You should feel sluggish. You should have aches and pains. I got to tell you, for my 70th birthday, we went out to the ocean and spent a few days there. And every morning we would go on the beach with the dogs and walk for 2.5 hours and just pick up shells and bend over and run with the dogs and everything. Well, when I came home, we've got 5 acres, so there's a lot of work to do around the property, and we've got our rescue animals. I needed to do some yard work, and I spent 7 hours working in the yard, and I had energy to spare. I went grocery shopping after that and filled my cart with fresh fruit and vegetables and beans and legumes. I bought the orange legumes because I heard that with orange legumes you can actually thicken a soup to make it more creamy, and I didn't know that. So I bought the orange legumes, and I'm going to try it. But one of the things that I know for me to be true is the evidence is in how I feel. The evidence is in my medical reports. And it's scary to think that people are being so misled into what is now our sick care system. I have to be careful not to get on my soapbox too much. And yet I think there's an urgency that we're dealing with that right now on TikTok. There's a trend going on, and it's called the blue collar meal. And it's kind of what it sounds like. And I would encourage people to go on TikTok and watch the blue collar meal videos. It's horrendous. It's these wives that are cooking for their blue collar husbands. They're the good little wives cooking for their husbands. And what they're cooking are meat, bacon, cheese. They're doing these dishes with literally they're pouring the oil in. They're putting like a 3-4 tablespoons of salt on pork chops, and they're saying, "My husband loves this," and it's like, "Are you flipping kidding me?" That and people are laughing and saying, "Oh, this is really what a great meal," and all that, and it's like, no, it's not a great meal. That's what's killing us, and I think people need to look at how do you wake up feeling every day, and is that the quality of life you want? Because for me, the older I get, the more I realize. I look at people like Linda Middlesworth. Oh my gosh, 80
Mhm.
years old. That
Yeah.
woman is a rock star, and she's a new member of the Sage Circle Alliance, which I definitely want us to talk about Sage Circle
Yay.
Alliance. She's been vegan for nearly 40 years. She's an animal advocate. She does a lot of, she goes to sanctuaries and does a lot of work there. She does a lot around people's health. And you look at somebody like her who is an aerobics instructor. She does kickboxing. She's so vibrant, and she's 80 years old. Most
Mhm.
of the people that are turning 80 are not as vibrant as her. And it's a direct result of what they're eating. And the fact that you have these conditions that you get, and then you go to the doctor and they give you prescription drugs. And then our media, oh my
Mhm.
gosh, the advertising, it's
Mhm.
crazy.
Mhm.
So how do
I
you
can
fight
only
that with your
yeah.
clients, Sid?
I'm sorry, say that again, please?
How do you address that with your clients?
Well, I tell them that gaining weight and getting sick is not a normal passage into, it's not a normal rite of passage into getting older.
Mhm.
All these things that are happening do not need to happen. I think you mentioned it just a little bit ago that we get this mindset that, oh, I'm getting older. It's time for me to get arthritis, whatever it is, whatever the disease is. That is so untrue. It's just that your lifestyle is catching up to you at that point. And it
Right.
doesn't have to be 70, it can be 50s these days and even 60s. A lot of people are starting to realize that their health is suffering at these earlier and earlier ages. And it's because of lifestyle. Genetics is what is it like less than 3% is actually truly genetics. The rest is,
Absolutely.
yeah,
And
it's
we're led to believe that it's genetics is the 97%, and 3% might be what we're eating. No, 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 no. Flip that around.
mhm,
Everything is directly related to what you consume and what you put in your body. And
mhm,
you look at children, the obesity rate for children is going through the roof. I remember growing up in the 50s and 60s. It was an oddity to see an overweight child or an obese
right,
child. I mean, that was a complete oddity. And
right.
we were very active kids. It's like our parents would say, "Go ride your bike in the streets." Come home at supper time. When the lights go out on the street, that means it's or they go on the
Mhm,
street. That's what time it is to come in. But we would ride our bikes all day. We'd be outside climbing trees. We'd be digging in the dirt, going down to the creek. And I used to love to go down to the creek and find pollywogs and frogs and bring them home. And my dad helped me build a frog farm. I mean, these are things that I was so accustomed to. And now, unfortunately, what can be a blessing on many levels, which is technology, has become a curse to many because children now are sitting in front of devices instead of getting exercise. And they say that sitting is the new smoking. I don't know much about that. Do you know much about that?
I've heard that, sitting around is just as detrimental for your body as
Mhm.
smoking. It's hard to kind of equate those 2, but being sedentary definitely has its health risks. So I haven't weighed out all the, research on that, but it's advised that if you're at a desk, get up once every 30 minutes. Set your
Right.
alarm clock on your phone and get up and stretch or take a little walk or do something.
Absolutely, absolutely. And to realize, sometimes I think people misunderstand, and they think if we say that when you go plant-based, you can reverse a lot of diseases and everything, they misunderstand that to be that you'll never get sick. That's not
Mhm.
true. That's not
Right.
true. There are certain illnesses and diseases that are inevitable, but many of them we can minimize our risk. Like Alzheimer's and dementia now is labeled as type 3 diabetes. Now, what can you tell us, Sid, about inflammation in the body? I know that you're very knowledgeable on the health benefits of a plant-based diet, but inflammation impacts us on so many different levels. So, what can you tell people about that?
Yeah, well, it's actually an immune system response. All inflammation is your immune system is responding to some type of threat. And when, say, you get a cut or a splinter, that's acute inflammation.
Hmm.
Have you ever seen your finger get hot and red, when there's an
Hmm.
injury to it? Your body's rushing immune cells to that area to begin the healing process, right? That's what we want it to do. But when there's something lurking in our body constantly that our body sees as a threat, those immune cells always stay activated, and that results in the chronic inflammation. So acute inflammation is very protective, but that chronic inflammation just leads to more and more trouble because some of those cytokine cells, they're called these inflammatory cells, they actually start recruiting other cells to start causing trouble. So, yeah, and then it becomes an ongoing process, and it can even actually, the inside of our arteries are one of the normal sites for that to occur on the inside of our arteries. When inflammation, that's how it harms our heart. It can pave the way for those plaques to form. But anyway, it's always the result of our immune system response, which I don't think people, realize that a lot. We want to have a really healthy immune system, right? We
Right.
want our gut to be really healthy. And yesterday, I did a class on diabetes here at my house, and we talked about type 3 diabetes, which that term, I guess, came about around 2005, referring to dementia and Alzheimer's,
Hmm.
because the researchers were finding that it's the same kind of pathways in the brain with insulin dysregulation that are common with diabetes. So that's why they're labeling it that, although the ADA does not recognize that term yet. But yeah,
Well,
there's a lot.
you gotta follow the money on that. So, I mean, seriously, I just watched a movie. It was kind of a movie documentary about. It was called Black Water, I think, and it was about DuPont, how they had poisoned the water in this area, a town in West Virginia, and the animals were dying, the cows were dying, and this one farmer had a high school education, and he realized it was something in the environment that was causing the cows to die. And as it turns out, it was the largest class action suit ever against any corporation. And
Mm,
DuPont hid the information from people. And I think it's called Black Waters. It's another fascinating story of how we've been lied to, how
mhm.
in the interest of finances, people's health has been put at risk. And so I think it's common sense when you think if you put a lot of things that are going to clog your arteries, it's going to clog your brain, it's going to clog your reproductive organs, everything.
Mhm.
Years ago, I actually was one of the first cases that was diagnosed with the term endometriosis. It was back when I was 21 years old. So that was
Ooh,
nearly 50 years ago.
wow.
And then I had it again at 25. And my mother in law, I was married to a Hispanic man, and my mother in law said, "Do you think it's all the cheese you're eating?" And I'm like, why would that have anything to do with my illness? I mean, I
Right.
thought it was ridiculous. Well, there are now experts within the plant-based movement who have found the correlation between the amount of cheese we eat and the inflammation and the cysts and all that with endometriosis. And it's like, doggone, because I used to eat a lot of cheese. I mean, you look at how committed I am to the whole plant-based movement. I was that committed to being a carnivore too. So,
Mhm.
yeah.
Yeah, that thing you mentioned about the blue collar meal, that is just so, disgusting to me in a way, where all these bad foods are being promoted and people are laughing around it. And I think about our culture, even on TV, the TV commercials, I just wanna throw my shoe at the TV so
Mhm.
often. There's Arby's, we have the meats. When I hear that, I just like cringe. but especially the drug commercials where everybody's at a musical these days and they're at the carnival and having fun and flying in air balloons. And I'm thinking,
Mhm.
where's the person laying on the couch suffering from the side effects of the drugs? Why don't they show that?
Absolutely,
Mhm.
well, and if people, what I encourage people to do, and I've often invited people to do this little study. Take a 1 hour period of television time and have a notepad and mark down how many commercials run
Mm.
and how many
Mhm.
of those are prescription drug commercials or fast food restaurant. Notice the order in which the commercials happen, because you can have a fast food restaurant commercial and that can actually trigger a response. I'm an NLP practitioner. I got certified in 1994. And there are amazing things that the brain does, that you see something that triggers a memory or a response. So you see a fast food restaurant commercial and it might trigger something. Oh, yeah, the last time I ate at McDonald's, I got indigestion. Well, right after the McDonald's commercial is a Pepto Bismol commercial. And right after the Pepto Bismol commercial is a type 2 diabetes commercial. And it's like crazy making. And yet most people are so unconscious and they really are unaware of how programmed. Why do you think they call it programming on TV? Oh, what's
Mhm.
the programming for tonight? The programming is we're going to convince you that the only way to get rid of your type 2 diabetes is with this medicine, whatever it's called. I don't know what it's called. But and I get, I'm sure my TV has a few shoe marks on it. But the thing I have to remember, Sid, is that it took me until I was 64 before I made the change. And so why would I expect anybody else to make the change sooner? But
Yeah.
it's also about lack of information. I think that COVID, the one blessing of the shutdowns and everything, is more and more people went online to get information, and all of a sudden there's a rise in the availability of information around what it means to be a plant-based eater and the health benefits. It's not just about the animals, because it always amazes me, and it's sad when you see people putting on Twitter or on Facebook, I'm going to eat 2 steaks to make up for the vegans in my life. And it's like, that's really kind of idiotic. But if that's what you have to do, go for it. And then go visit your doctor. But the reality is when you look at the quality of life that you have and the vibrancy, I mean, I look at what I'm able to do at 70 years old, that I know as I was growing up and I would see 70 people in their 70s, they weren't healthy.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
we're getting more and more unhealthy as a society and a culture. So my encouragement to people is to ask yourself, what's the quality of life that I want? And what do I need to do in order to achieve that?
Mhm. Exactly. So, how did you meet V. Lynn? I've always wanted to ask you that and start the business that you two have partnered in.
Well, thank you for asking. Apparently, we met about 10 years ago. I used to speak at affiliate marketing conferences. There was one called NAMS, Niche Affiliate Marketing. And then they changed it to novice to advanced marketers, internet marketers. So I've been involved in internet marketing for about, I'm going to say, well over 25 years now.
Mm, okay.
And we were working on uh, I'm trying to think of the name of the project we were working on about 3 years ago, where it was all about a 1 question survey. And there was an event going on that was being held right before the NHA conference. And both V. Lynn and I had been hired for separate parts of this by this company. And we found that we worked quite well together. Even though she was working on one piece, I was working on another piece. The more we got to work with each other, the more we realized we were very aligned in our work ethic, in what we believed about plant-based eating and what our goals were. And so we actually decided to start testing the waters out by working with a few clients, and we got contracted by the NHA. We worked on that project together beautifully, and went further and further into our business relationship. And we have some exciting things going on. Like I said, we started our podcast, Veganpreneur Revolution. We are bidding on some book launches right now. We work with clients, getting them on podcast shows, helping them start podcast shows, doing whole social media campaigns. So how we met was through a conference for internet marketing many years ago. And it was we truly believe that it was divine intervention that brought us together.
Mhm. That's really cool. So about 3 years then you've been in business together, is that right, Kathleen? Or,
Yeah, it's been about 3
about
years, and
okay.
I've had my business 30 years, she's had hers about 20, and mine has been all about marketing ever since I started it. I'm also a keynote speaker, but it's interesting because the one thing COVID did, it was shut down a lot of conferences, so I really
Mhm.
haven't been out speaking on the platform, but I've presented in front of groups as small as 2 people and as large as 1,000 people. And
Mm.
that's what I used to do primarily in my business, was go out to conferences, and I would either be a breakout session speaker or a keynote speaker.
Okay, so do you still both have your own businesses as well as Vegan Visibility Productions or
We do. We do.
oh, okay. So
Yeah,
you
because
are
mine is a corporation. I'm an S corp. I've been an S corp for 30 years, and it's kind of the umbrella that is for my personal protection too.
mhm. Wow. And how did you get introduced to Sage Circle Alliance?
That actually happened as a result of meeting Meryl Fury, and she
Mhm.
was at the NHA conference, and Vlyn started doing some work with her. One thing led to another, and we got introduced to Sage Circle Alliance. And, it's so funny because Vlyn got the vision right away, and she said, you got to check this out. This is going to be amazing. And I'm like, yeah, another organization. And we were probably in the middle of a project. It's like, no, I don't want to take anything else on. And once I did my research and I checked it out, it's like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. And what I love about Sage Circle Alliance, it's like they're the hub that brings in a lot of different organizations, different experts, because we've got nonprofits that are involved, we've got influencers that are involved, we've got nutritionists, we've got speakers, we've got authors. And so it was through Meryl that I first was, well, Vlyn introduced me to Meryl, and I sat on a committee. One thing led to another, and now we're really involved in these live streams and everything. That's kind of how life is. I wake up every day and I'm kind of like, okay, God, show me what I'm supposed to do today.
Yeah.
And I try to be a good servant and listen. Don't always
Mhm.
do it, but I'm getting better.
So let's talk about the benefits. Why anybody watching us today? What would benefit them to think about joining Sage Circle Alliance? Because this month is our charter membership push, and there's a discount this month. There's other. Is there a swag bag? Remind me, Kathleen. Is there a swag bag?
We're going to be doing a crowdfunding, and there will be a swag bag with that. Yes,
Oh, okay,
yes.
gotcha.
So
Okay.
yeah, that's all coming, and it's being developed right now. Vlyn and I are actually working on that. But
Mhm.
let me look at it from a perspective of an entrepreneur, and somebody who wants to work solely within the vegan industry, and that's really who I am. I can no longer find myself. I'm really good at what I do. I mean, and I say that very humbly. I'm very, very good at what I do. You do it for decades, you get pretty good at something. And so I know how to get somebody visibility. I know how to help them sell a lot of books. I know how to help them get to #1 on Amazon, and on and on and on. I can list the whole grocery list, if you will, of things that I can do well. But I also know that it's hard for me to promote somebody that is not aligned with the plant-based vegan lifestyle. If somebody is going to be selling animal-based products, I can't help them promote their business. I can, but
Mhm.
I won't.
Yeah.
And so, what I love about Sage Circle Alliance as an entrepreneur are the people that I have the opportunity to meet who may need the services that I offer, or I may need their services. I also love the camaraderie. I love the fact that there's a speakers bureau. So, if you're a speaker and you're looking for speaking opportunities, you can list that on the speaker bureau section. If you're an author and you're looking to sell books, what a great way to actually promote your book to other people who would have an interest in it. If you're a coach or a nutritionist and there are people who know people who need a coach, for example, I'm not a nutritionist, even though I did get my certification. I thought I was going to be a nutritionist, and I quickly got rid of that because I don't have the patience to work with people on that level. I'm a visionary for business and all that. And so if somebody needs somebody who focuses on type 2 diabetes or dementia or Alzheimer's, timers, there are specialists like yourself, Sid, that I can refer them over to. I don't need to try to be all things to all people. So what I love is the fact that it's a growing community. It's kind of a hub for all these different organizations, and whatever you may be looking for within the vegan and plant-based space, you're going to find it in the Sage Circle Alliance. And I love the leadership. I have to say, Paul and Meryl, amazing, amazing people.
Yeah. So you're collaborating with a lot of other people that are like-minded. You have opportunities to increase your own visibility and to partner with other people. Plus, there's an onboarding, right? If you were to join Sage Circle, you'll have someone walk you through all the benefits, the website, everything about it, so that you're comfortable with it. And you could then become a speaker on the Speakers Bureau or join in wherever you fit. What is your niche?
Absolutely. You know, I have to say it's a great opportunity also for people who want to get on podcast shows, because a lot of us who are members, we have podcast shows, and we're looking for people to bring on our show who are aligned with this lifestyle. And what you'll find is the more you do, let's say, podcasting, the more comfortable you get with it, like being on these live streams. I had a situation the other day. This is so funny. I say oy vey a lot when something just blows my mind, like with the TikTok videos of the blue collar meals. It's like, oy vey. Well, Vlyn actually sent me a shirt. She lives in Atlanta and I live in Oregon. And she said, I saw this shirt. I thought of you and I had to get it for you. So she sent it to me. The other day, as I'm headed out to the coast, we stopped for a bite to eat and I'm wearing the oy vey shirt. Well, there's a woman inside with a computer in front of her, a microphone, and somebody on the opposite side with a microphone. And she points to my shirt. She goes, I love your shirt. And I go, are you a podcaster? She goes, no, I have a radio show. So she comes outside, and this all happened as a result of the shirt. She comes outside. She goes, would you come in and do a short interview, a 2-minute segment? I said, sure. Yeah. What do you want me to talk about? Now, years ago, I would have had to think about it. I would have had to panic over. I would have had to, whatever. And so I come inside and she said, so where are you traveling from? Where are you going to? And she said, what do you think about this restaurant? I said, oh, I love it. They have a great vegan option. I ordered the Asian salad for lunch. And I immediately segued into being a vegan and why being a vegan is so important. And had I not had all that podcast experience, I couldn't have done it. And that's what Sage Circle Alliance can do for people, is give you experience. It can give you openings. It can give you opportunities. And you might say, well, what does radio in a small town have to do with Sage Circle Alliance? It has to do with the fact that you can get your experience with people within the organization. And if you happen to be wearing a shirt that a radio host says, would you come on the show? You're going to say, absolutely.
Well, and you know your stuff. You're an expert, you're a professional, and you know your material, right? You know, like you said, you've been doing this for so many years. You know
I have.
Yeah.
Well, and what I kind of think is, it's not that I know it. It's like, I don't care anymore. I actually, when I turned 70, I said, okay, now I can be very sassy, and I have permission because I'm an elderly. That's the thing. I looked up the term elderly, and I was like, how old are we when we're elderly? In some circles, it's 65. In some circles, it's 70. In some circles, it's 75 and beyond. And I thought, oh my gosh, I'm an elderly woman.
Have you ever read that poem, When I Am Old, I Will Wear Purple?
Oh, yeah, I remember that. And I remember years ago thinking, I'll never wear purple. Now it's like, where's my purple hat?
Yeah. And I think it goes, I'll wear purple and red together, and I'm going to go into the bakery and steal samples, and I'm going to run my pen along the fence. In other words, they're not going to care about what people think.
Absolutely. So, but and what's exciting, Sid, about not only Sage Circle Alliance, and I do encourage people to go check out sagecirclealliance.org. That's sagecirclealliance.org. Check out the organization, because we've got a student level, we've got a volunteer level. So if you're low on funds, you can join and you can volunteer sometime. Not a lot of time. We have small business level, we have nonprofit level, we have corporate level. And if you're looking to do sponsorships, we are looking for sponsors. But it's the thing about a plant-based lifestyle, and what I love about Sage Circle Alliance, is we're all lifting each other up to support each other in living very, very, very vibrant and healthy lives and doing good for the planet. Because Anybody who denies that changes are happening to the climate and the environment, I don't think they're looking. I think they're burying their head in the sand. And the reality is look at all the storms happening, look at all the floods happening, and we need to do something, and we need to do something now. And we have people who are environmentalists who are members of Sage Circle Alliance.
Hmm. Yeah, so I love everything you shared, and you have been yourself. Let's switch gears a little bit. We've been talking a lot about nutrition. Let's talk about, are there any fitness people in Sage Circle Alliance? People that are, personal trainers or would coach people in that direction?
I do believe we have members, and if we don't, and you're a nutritionist or a fitness expert, I would say please join and make
Yeah.
your services available to people. And I mean, we're not asking you to donate your services. It's like if somebody
Yeah.
comes to me and says, I need a book launch, I'm not giving that away, but I will give a portion back to Sage Circle Alliance because
Hmm.
the lead came from Sage Circle Alliance, and I believe in giving back to get more. It's the old adage that to be blessed, you have to bless, and the
Hmm.
more that we bless others, the more we get blessed. But fitness and exercise, I think, is such. Well, yes, we do. As a matter of fact, Linda Middlesworth, she's
Oh.
an aerobics instructor, and she's 80
Hmm.
years old. I mean, go figure. 80 years old and an aerobic, and she still teaches. I mean, that's the thing. It's
Hmm.
not like she was one, but
Hmm.
like me, I exercise on a regular basis. I do resistance training. I don't train on resistance training like I used to. I used to be a bodybuilder, and I was going to compete until my trainer wanted me to do steroids. And it's like, I'm glad I had the sense not to, but
Hmm.
because those just aren't healthy. But as you have more energy by the way you eat, you want to exercise more. And it's about mind, body, soul, really. So, yes, we do have people who are into exercise. And Sid, what do you do for exercise?
I mix it up. I do both aerobic. Sometimes I do step aerobics. Sometimes I do power walks. I play pickleball. I play tennis. I do strength training as well. And I like to stretch. I got to get the stretching in there. But right now I have a torn meniscus. In fact, I'm going under the knife on Thursday to get that fixed because
Okay,
about
okay,
10 months
okay.
ago I hurt it on the tennis court. And it's starting to impact my life. I love to
Mm,
hike. And we went to South Carolina to hike in February, and my knee was killing me. I'm like, I can't live like this. I've got to be able to hike. So
right, right,
I'm getting that fixed, but I have always been an exerciser, but I am dialing back a little right now because of my knee, and I
right.
cannot wait to get back on the groove.
Well, you know what's interesting, Vlyn had two full knee replacements in the last year and a half. And
Mm,
because of being a plant-based eater, her healing was very different than had she been a carnivore. And I think that's something for people to look at too, is like you can get an injury. I actually broke my wrist about 3 years ago. It was a freak accident, and I actually was at an outdoor event, and there was a gust of wind that came up, and those canopies that they have over the exhibitor's space, it was
mhm.
not tied down. It flew up and it hit me in the back of the head, and literally it knocked me on the cement. And instantly my wrist broke. And when I went to emergency and they were asking me, okay, tell us about yourself. And I said, put in my file, she's a plant-based eater, does not eat any meat or dairy, and she's an amazing woman. And they kind of giggled. I said, no, 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 put in, she's an amazing woman. Because they probably gave me some painkillers. I don't know. But I wanted them to know I was a plant-based eater because I didn't want to get anything in my system. But one of the things that you'll notice as you eat healthy and you don't have oil and things that cause inflammation in your system, your healing process is a lot quicker and it's more efficient. And that's another benefit. So now you mentioned pickleball. I've heard a lot about pickleball. My brother-in-law is totally obsessed with it. My sister calls and she says he's out playing pickleball again. What is pickleball?
It's like a shortened, smaller court with, 4 people, 2 and
Mhm.
2. Similar, court, but the rules are different, the ball is different, the paddles are different, but, I'm not a big expert on it. I've only played it, like, 3 times, and the 3rd time I hurt my knee. So,
Ooh, ooh. Well, I hear it's a blast. I hear it's fun, other
it's
than when
fun.
you hurt your knee. But
Yeah.
And I'm sure
Mhm.
your recovery from your surgery is going to be spectacular
I
because,
think it will.
yeah,
Yeah. I
and that's
figure
something. Oh, go ahead, please.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt there. But even with what they're doing, they're making 3 holes in the knee, it's not like a serious big thing. They said it takes like 15 minutes and you'll be driving in 2 days. So it's already not even a big thing. So I don't suspect I'll be down for very long, but I can still do treadmill right now. I can still exercise that way.
Uh-huh.
But
Now, are
I
you
don't
going to be under completely when they do the surgery, or are you going to be awake?
I'm gonna be under, and I don't like that at
Yeah,
all. I
yeah.
have a plant-based nurse anesthesiologist friend, and,
Wow.
I
Okay.
contacted her. I'm like, "What can I expect? Because it's intravenous, it's not over the face." I've been
Right,
asking questions
right.
about it. She goes, "It's very
Hmm.
safe, don't worry." I
Good,
said, "Do
good.
2 people check the dose? Because I want 2 people to check the dose."
And good for you for
Yeah.
doing that because
Mhm.
I know that's like the hardest part of it. Like when they had to do surgery on my wrist, they took me in right away, did the surgery within like 24 hours. And it was the anesthesia that really messed with me because I'm in recovery. I've been sober for 40 years. I don't do drugs. I don't drink. And I just had a real problem with it. So whenever anything like that comes up, it concerns me because it's like,
Mhm.
okay, what is that going to trigger? And those are real concerns that people need to have and to educate yourself. I love that you have a friend who is a plant-based anesthesiologist who can educate you. And I think,
Mhm.
that's another thing about Sage Circle Alliance is that we can tap into virtually any. Dr. Joel Furman, he's been involved in a founding member. We've got Dr. Will Tuttle. We've got experts who can actually give us the insight that is so necessary for us to have. Like, don't live blindly and don't
Mhm.
believe everything you read and hear. Educate yourself and talk to people, get real life stories. Don't just get the antidotes.
Yeah, and we've even got vegan cruise people in here, right? If you
Mhm.
wanted to take a plant-based vacation, there's ways to do that to connect with people who could help you there. All sorts of benefits, all sorts of well, I might call that nurse anesthesiologist and get her to join. I'm going to present Sage Circle Alliance to her and try to get her to come join us.
I think that would be amazing because this year I actually changed insurance companies, Medicare. They made some changes, and so I changed insurance companies. And my doctor, the group that she's with, was supposed to be under that insurance company, but they never signed the contract. One thing led to another, and I need a doctor. Um, and I have been looking for a plant based doctor because I want a doctor who will support my lifestyle and not try to convince me that I have to have meat. Because there are doctors that do that. They go, oh, that plant based eating, it's not healthy. When you
Mhm.
consider that doctors, the average doctor gets how much education and training do they get on nutrition and um, the eating when they go through medical school? What is it, like 4 hours or something?
Yeah, it's very minimal.
And here
It's
they're
very
advising
minimal.
on our health, and that rarely will a doctor ask you what you consume, what you eat on a daily basis. Rarely does that get asked to patients. And with the skyrocketing of diabetes, type 2 diabetes, heart conditions, inflammation, Alzheimer's, dementia, high blood pressure, on and on and on, you would think that they would ask, what are you eating on a daily basis? And one of the things I do, Sid, I don't know if you do this, but when I go to the grocery store, I have to be very careful and take off my judgment hat because I have my judgment hat on when I go to the grocery store. And I look at what people have in their cart and I think, what are you doing? And especially when they have kids with them, that these kids are not
Yeah.
being given a fair shake at life. And you can't blame the parents entirely because it's the media, it's the advertisers, it's the big pharma, it's the sick care that we are going on an uphill climb. So people really should do what they can to educate themselves. And what would you say are some good books that people could read that would be a good start for getting on a healthy lifestyle?
Well, there are many transitional books out there, Kathleen. Forks Over Knives has a transition book. I myself have a transition course. Um, I think
What's it
of
called?
oh,
What's your course called?
It's called the Plan A Diet Transition Course. It's on my
Okay.
website. Mhm.
And I know that you're coming up on the NHA podcast, Health Science Podcast, pretty soon for
Yeah,
Plan A. Yeah. And
yeah.
from what I hear, it was a rock star interview. And let's see, there's the Plan A diet. Okay. Now, how do people find you? Let's go ahead and give them your
Yeah,
website.
it's my name, sidnotter.com will take you
Okay.
to the website, and there's a courses tab there. We have an inflammation course, I have a lot of courses there, health related, and many of them are free. There's a free one called 3 Food Mistakes That Lead to Painful Joints, Extra Pounds, and Health Problems the Doctors Aren't Solving. So try to
Okay.
guess what the 3 food mistakes and then watch that webinar, and then there's a way you can contact me after the webinar for a free 45-minute chat just to see if we'd be a
Okay.
good fit
Well,
and if you need
I'm gonna
further
pick your
help.
brain right now. I'm gonna pick your brain right now. I have bone spurs in my neck. I mean, I actually went to to have an X-ray from a chiropractor, and he said you've got bone spurs. Is it true, or am I imagining that when I eat the ultra processed foods, it flares it up? And if I eat 100% whole food, plant based, no SOS, that I will not have the pain in my neck like if I eat the ultra processed food. Is that true, or is it my imagination?
That is absolutely true, Kathleen, absolutely true, because, yeah, I just did a whole bone class with a physical therapist, Eileen Kapsaftis. She had a class on bones, I had a class on bones. We combined them and created a course called Age Well with Strong Bones. We talk about the benefits of whole food plant-based nutrition on your bone health. We talk about calcium all the time, but your bones actually have like 10 or 11 or 12 other minerals that they need, boron and magnesium, all these minerals. But absolutely, the standard American diet is highly acidic,
Uh-huh.
the sulfuric acid and phosphoric acid. And when we eat those things, our body has to buffer it to stay pH neutral or we're going to die. We have
That's
to stay
incredible.
pH neutral. And the
Right.
way it buffers that acid is to take calcium directly from your bones. That's one
Wow.
way. Yeah, so there's 3 ways it buffers the acid, but the big one is that it takes calcium from your bones. So I always tell people we do not have a calcium deficiency problem here. We have a calcium drainage problem. If you
That's
look at a can of
incredible.
pop, yeah, phosphoric acid is listed right on a can of pop. So all the kids that are drinking pop, that's really bad for bone health.
Wow. That's so incredible because I thought I must be imagining this because every time that I would eat something junk food vegan, my neck would flare up and I'm like, okay, that can't be true. And it is true. And let me tell you, here's what my drink is. It's a green drink, but it's red. Okay. Let me tell you what's in there. I've got super greens, the leafy super greens, not the powder. I've got super greens. I've got a banana. I've got frozen blueberries. I've got chia seeds, flax seeds. I've got ginger. I've got turmeric, and I've got lemon, and I've got a beet, a whole raw beet that I peel. That's what I do to it.
Mhm.
Fill the blender up, put water all the way up to the top above the substance in there. Then I blend it for about a minute to 90 seconds. And I sip on this for about probably 4 or 5 hours. And I got to tell you what a difference it makes in the way I feel and just how I start my day. I don't eat a big meal in the morning. I usually start eating about 9 or 10 in the morning, and I've been up since probably 5 a.m. So it's not like I get up at 9 and then start eating. And then I sip on this for a few hours, and I have a big lunch, a big salad for lunch, and then a dinner that might consist of beans, legumes, lentils, things of that nature, and then some vegetables and all that. But I'll tell you, when I drink my power drink here, what a difference it makes in how I feel.
Yeah. So
So.
all those things you listed are very anti-inflammatory. The spices that you listed, what else
One
did you say was in there, Kathleen?
Okay, it's got lemon juice, a whole lemon. It's got
Uh-huh.
banana, blueberries. It's got super greens, the leafy super greens. It's got chia seeds, flax seeds, ginger, turmeric. And I'm trying to think if there's, I think that's it.
Okay. I'm glad you brought up the lemon because most people think lemons and limes are acidic, right?
Uh-huh.
But they don't add to that acid load. It's after the food is digested that makes the food acidic or not acidic, like when it comes to your bones and all of that.
Okay.
So when people think, "Oh, this lemon, I shouldn't eat lemons, they're acidic." No, you can eat them because
Okay.
after they're digested, they're actually alkaline, they're on the other side of the scale. Just a
What
little
about
tidbit there.
what about apple cider vinegar? Because I usually put that in there too. I didn't this morning, but what about apple cider
Yeah,
vinegar?
yeah, that's as long as you're not drinking it straight would be my
No,
advice. You're mixing it in with something else.
I
Yeah.
am. I am. So, what do you say to people that they want they eat healthy salads, but then they fill it up with dressing that's filled with
Yeah.
chemicals and oil and salt and all that? How can they find a tasty dressing so that they enjoy the salad, but they're not doing harm to their body?
Yeah, I have a whole list of that, but I'll give you a quick one. It's called 3-2-1 dressing. 3 parts balsamic, well, 3 parts any vinegar. I use balsamic.
Okay.
2 parts mustard. I use Dijon.
Okay.
1 part of a liquid sweetener, whether that be maple syrup, date syrup. Whisk that up. I throw some Italian seasoning in, and you have got a delicious dressing that's got a little sweetness, it's tart,
Nice.
and it's like 2 minutes.
Wonderful, wonderful.
Mhm.
Well, and see, this is what you'll find through the Sage Circle Alliance, folks. If you're not a member, check us out, sagecirclealliance.org. That's sagecirclealliance.org. Check us out because it's a great organization. We've got well-known influencers. We've got people who are not so well-known, but they're very committed to the lifestyle. We've got nutritionists. We've got exercise what do they call that? Exercise. What would be the word for it?
Fitness?
Fitness experts. Yeah, fitness
Yeah,
experts.
mhm, mhm.
We've got authors, we've got speakers, we've got podcasters. If you're looking to get on podcasts, what a better way to get on podcasts than to join the organization, get known by people. And one of the things that will get people noticed is if you volunteer for a committee. It doesn't mean that we're going to take a lot of your time. It just means that you do get pretty well known. And if people get to know you and they know what you do, it's easier for us to refer you to other people. For example, there's a woman up in Washington State that has a vegan bed and breakfast in this beautiful, beautiful area. And I need to invite her to join the organization because what would be better than joining an organization where
Mm,
people who go on trips, they're looking for vegan establishments? Because I will tell you, that probably is one of the greatest challenges we deal with is traveling and finding vegan friendly, not vegan restaurants, but vegan friendly restaurants that will cook you a healthy meal that's a plant-based meal, but they don't add a bunch of salt to it. They don't add a bunch of oil to it. They don't add a bunch of sugar to it. And it's a healthy, healthy meal.
mhm. Yeah, that would be great if she would join. Where is she, did you say, Kathleen?
She's
Where?
in Washington, and I don't know the name of the town. Actually, if you go to Vegan Visibility Productions and you click on the podcast link, I think she was the most recent episode that we just released, and
Mhm.
just a dynamite lady, dynamite lady. But I've got to talk to her about joining the organization too.
Yeah, so how can people find your podcasts, Kathleen? And
Well,
you
thank you for asking. They
Mhm,
can go to YouTube and they can put in veganpreneur revolution, or they can
okay.
go to Apple Podcast, any of the main podcast platforms. The easiest way though is to go to veganvisibilityproductions.com. That's veganvisibilityproductions.com and click on the podcast tab and you'll see all the most recent podcasts. We just launched the show 2 weeks ago. So it's a fairly new show, but we're getting great traction and we've got some amazing, amazing guests who have been on the show and who will be on the show. And we need to get you on the show, Sid.
I'd love that. So I'm assuming everyone that you invite on is vegan, and
Absolutely.
are they entrepreneurs as well? Or
Most are, but they don't have to be. But the one criteria is they must be completely void of all animal and dairy in their food consumption. And we don't cross that line at all.
Mhm,
I remember when I started my other podcast, Plant Based Eating for Health, I had somebody who said, well, why don't you bring on factory farm uh, directors? And it's like, why would I do that? Well, to
mhm,
get an opposing point of view, I said, oh, no, 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 no. I don't need
mhm.
to do that. And I've had people who have said, that's not fair that I can't consume animal and dairy and I can't be on your show. It's like, what's not fair about it? It's my branding. It's what I do. So
Right,
if you're,
exactly.
yeah, if you're void of animal and dairy and you've been that way for a while, you didn't just start last week, but you've been that way for a while, this is part of your DNA. It is part of your life. Contact us. We'd love to have you. And actually, if you go to our podcast page, we have an application. And that's one of the questions. Are you completely void of animal and dairy? And if you say yes, well, we'll definitely have a conversation with you.
Very good. Very good. So just a reminder for anyone who's watching, during May, there's 10% off. You can become a charter member for Sage Circle Alliance and get discounts and have access to fabulous people and interact, increase your visibility for your business. So many benefits there.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, Sid, this has
Well,
been delightful. Thank you for hosting this. I appreciate it.
you are so welcome. Thank you for coming on. I could talk to you for a long time, I think.
Well, we'll just have to continue this conversation. And I do want you to go check out the Blue Collar Meals on TikTok. And I think you're going to be as shocked as I was. And I encourage people out there, go out and really do your research, find out what's healthy and what's a bunch of hype. Because if you follow the trail of money, you're going to find that there is a trail of money that leads to the sick care industry. And let's be healthy. Let's live vibrantly into our 60s, 70s, 80s, and beyond. Sid,
Yeah.
thank you so much.
You're welcome. And one comment more, the cool thing is there's not a diet for heart disease and a diet for diabetes and a diet for gut health. It's all the same diet. So you're getting all of these benefits for every part of your body.
Absolutely. And check out sagecirclealliance.org. Take care.
Yes. Take care. Bye-bye.